Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. Okay, we're back. You know, one of the great ministries in Southern Oregon is Celebrate Recovery, and Trail Christian Fellowship has one of these outreaches that's just terrific. And they meet on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock there at the church. And I'm delighted to have in the studio with us today Paige Harrison, who is the leader of the Trail Christian Fellowship Celebrate Recovery, and she's brought a very special guest, Nancy Lawton, with her, but I'll let you introduce Nancy in a moment. But nice to see you, Paige.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Nancy.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right, quickly, tell us about Celebrate Recovery there at Trail. What are you guys doing?
We meet on Tuesdays, as you said, at 6 o'clock for dinner, and we have a testimony or a lesson every other week, and then we break into issue-specific groups where people can share about the things that are going on in their life with other people who are suffering from hurts, habits, and hang-ups of the same type.
Mm-hmm. And you've been doing this for quite a while. Tell us, introduce Nancy, and so Nancy can give us her testimony, because it kind of encapsulates everything you do, right?
Absolutely. This is Nancy,
Hi, Nancy.
And she's one of our leaders at our particular, there are 4 or 5 other Celebrate Recoveries in the Medford area as well. She is one of our leaders, and she has an amazing testimony.
How'd you get involved?
Well, about 2.5 years ago, for lack of a better word, you could say I relapsed into some fairly self-destructive behavior that was intended basically to medicate pain in my life that had not been sufficiently dealt with in decades of trying to live successful with victory in my life, but not understanding what that means. And so what happened was I had a couple of beloved family members suddenly die, less than 2 years apart. My mother and my twin sister. Both of their deaths were absolutely unexpected and sudden, and I do not handle sudden change very well at all. I have a personality type that needs structure and peace and as little stress as possible, and I found those events to be so staggering that my mind just couldn't cope with the pressure that brings, because as circumstances would have it, all of the business-oriented things that go with the death of a loved one fell to me, because that's just the way it happens. You have to deal with people, and you just don't have time to process feelings. So to make a very long story short, I did what I am inclined to do because of my personality type and my personal history. I tried to medicate my pain. Instead of processing it and dealing it and reaching out to trusted Christian friends, I tried to take the way that the flesh tends to want to go, and that's the path of least resistance. We want the pain to end as soon as possible, and it wasn't long before I just started getting into trouble with trying to over-medicate my pain instead of dealing with it. And because I had had some experience with 12-step programs in the past, I sought that out, but soon learned that they really weren't offering me the kind of victory you need to have in life if you're going to cope with this kind of loss and be equipped to deal with other people's pain in a supportive way, you know, and Celebrate Recovery offers that. So
you ended up back at Celebrate Recovery, which injects the faith factor.
Yes.
Did you go on your own, or were you invited back in? How did that happen?
I went on my own the first couple of times and did what the vast majority of people do. The minute it gets to be a little bit too much or a little bit too complicated, I hit the door and went back home. And after several months, my husband volunteered to come with me. He's been very supportive through this. And for the first several months, he had to actually insist that I go, because I really didn't want to be there. I didn't think think I needed it. These are the incredible games our minds play with us.
Sure.
They
When was the breakthrough for you?
It was several months in when a step study was offered. They're offered periodically depending on the amount of interest. You know, it takes half a dozen people to really get a successful one off the ground. And I began participating in the 12-step step study, which is quite in depth. It's long term. They typically take 9 to 12 months to complete, and I had a very strong willed and dependable friend who was willing to pull alongside me and meet with me weekly.
Well, that's the key.
And help me.
Yes, it is.
Mentoring and have the people alongside. Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's preferable to be partnered with somebody who is strong enough in personality not to allow you to quit or to allow you to take shortcuts.
So how long was your recovery? A year?
The step study process was about 7 months, so altogether, yeah, about a year before I could say, you know, and you never say, well, I'm recovered.
Yeah.
We're in perpetual recovery, but it must take on greater proportions. It can't be just something we're hanging on to by our fingernails. So it does take about a year.
That's what you do.
That's what you do. That's what we do.
And you match mentors with people who need the help, walk them through.
Well, we have leaders. And when you choose a sponsor, that's more of the peer mentoring that goes on.
And what kind of addictions are you dealing with?
We have everything. Any hurt, habit, or hang-up. It's not drugs and alcohol only. We have people with codependency, gambling, overeating, divorce, grief. Any hurt that anybody has can be dealt with at a Celebrate Recovery.
And yours was a little, obviously, grief and over-medicating, right?
Yes.
So the combination of the two. Do you even deal with children?
We do. We actually have a children's program. We have daycare, and we started it used to be called Celebration Station. It's now called Celebration Place. And the children do mirrored lessons to what the adults are learning. So if we're doing the lesson on forgiveness, the children have a children's lesson on forgiveness. And they actually spend 2 weeks on each topic because of the way ours switches from lesson to testimony. They have 2 weeks of lessons on forgiveness. And they actually have questions to ask their parents.
Whoa.
They come home, so they have dialogue starting.
That's wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. There's also a teen program, which we are not blessed to have started that yet, but we're really looking forward to that in the future.
How do you gauge your success, Paige? And I know you have a lot of great stories, but how do you know you're on track with everybody and it's working?
Well, you know, a lot of people come and go, and a lot of times they come back, which is
Nancy.
Yes, exactly. Which is I did the same thing, and many times that's what happens when people step up and get into leadership and start helping other people and giving back. I would say that's a huge gauge of a successful story.
Wow. How long does it take? I mean, somebody has to want to be there, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely.
In your case, your husband was kind of dragging you there for a little while, which was great, but at what point does it go from having to be there to wanting to be there?
I think that's different for everybody.
Yeah.
That has to be different for everybody. I always wanted to be there, but it still took a long time to sink into where I was actually getting something. I felt the need to be there and the desire to be there, but, the Lord kept bringing me back, or the Holy Spirit kept nudging me that way, and I kept going back even though I was still drinking. So
where do you put God into the picture?
The whole program is based on Jesus Christ. It takes the secular 12 steps and transforms it biblically.
Okay.
I mean, there is a Bible verse attached to every step and throughout the entire program. There's prayer, there's multiple verses, even in the lessons. The lessons all have mini testimony attached with success stories and Bible verses attached to those as well. We do not claim ourselves as alcoholics or addicts, or that is not our identity. Probably for me, the biggest difference in Celebrate Recovery is that we identify ourselves as a grateful believer of Jesus Christ, who is suffering with, and then whatever your hurt, habit, or hang-up is.
I'm so glad to hear that, because sometimes I hear people, I'm this, and I go, do you really want to be that? I thought you could get past that.
You can.
Okay.
You can.
All right, so how many people are involved out there at Trail? How many?
Well, at Trail, we range anywhere from 50 to 80.
Really?
And we're a ways out of town.
Oh, yeah, but that's a big crowd.
It is a big crowd. And we are also blessed that the church allows us to use the van. And Nancy's husband, who is not really part of CR, but he is a wonderful person. And he volunteers to drive the van one way, and we have another fellow. They go to the Dom and pick up a van full of fellows from the Dom so that they can participate as well.
So, what happens in a meeting? What will happen Tuesday night?
Tuesday night, the first thing we do is eat. And
gotta have food.
Gotta have dinner. And then we have about a 20-minute worship where we sing. And we have a different worship group every week. And then we have announcements, and we read, what we are and what we aren't. We read the 12 steps with the Bible verses, or the 8 principles, which are based on the Beatitudes from the Sermon on the Mount.
Wow.
So we trade off with that. And then we have either a lesson or a testimony. Then we break up into small groups where we share. And then we come back together at the end for fellowship for dessert and coffee.
Well, let me encourage you. Celebrate Recovery is a proven course, I guess you could say, to help you. And the response and the results has just been terrific. Some of the stories I hear from the various groups around the valley has just been fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Amazing.
And you know what I like about it most? I mean, you guys are living examples of this. Whatever God saves you from brings you through. He turns around and makes you a minister too. You've been there, done that.
Yes.
Been there, done that. You both have the T-shirt on, so right?
Right.
And it takes one to help one.
That's right.
And so it's an amazing way to really get some healing. If you know somebody that's struggling, maybe you're struggling. And what is it? The help, the hurt, the what?
Hurts, habits, and hang-ups.
Hurts, habits, and hang-ups. That pretty much covers it all.
Covers everything.
It's amazing you're not 500 people on a Tuesday night. That pretty much takes us all in. But anyway, if you're struggling in any of those areas, Tuesday night, out there at Trail at 6 o'clock, and Paige and Nancy will be there to greet you, and some good things happen. I just want to say thanks for sharing with us and what you guys are doing. Nancy, your testimony is fascinating, to say the least, and now you're leading.
Well, I am. All of my life, I imagined that I would have some sort of ministry, some way to give back. But I had to learn the same way the vast majority of people do. It takes a lot of pain for God to bring out in us our area of giftedness. It's not when things are going well. That is not when you say, I'm going to plug into ministry and really help.
All right,
we have to be broken.
All right, Tuesday nights out at Trail at 6 o'clock. Celebrate Recovery. Go out and see Paige and Nancy and get help, okay? Thanks, ladies, for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.